You're listening to Media Savvy Moms with Melody and Marilyn, a podcast by Parents Aware, your go-to for information on how to talk to kids and teens about pornography and healthy sexuality.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Media Savvy Moms. Today we have the topic of anime that we're going to discuss, and it is a huge topic, but something that few parents really are comfortable with of our generation because it's not something that we grew up watching. However, all my kids grew up watching it, and it's a universe that I would like to understand a little more about, and so we're going to have a parent's guide today.
Absolutely. And it's something that our listeners are writing to us and asking about and searching on and really interested in. So we want to do some more shows about it. We did do a show called Anime colon Gateway to Porn question mark with Lacey Bentley, who is an expert on hentai. She actually is a recovering hentai addict. And so it was really great kind of intro to this topic, and we have been getting crazy tons of hits on it. So we thought we'd do some follow-up.
We will define hentai a little later on, so stick with us. But what are some
Yeah,
concerns
sorry.
that parents have?
We may fling out some of these terms. So if you have questions, if we forget to hit on something, definitely ask us in comments or write in if you want to know more, because we're going to do some follow-up shows. I mentioned we've had some parents write in. There are crazy, sad, scary things happening, and I don't want to sound alarmist. We don't want to scare parents, but we do want to be realistic about the anime realm and that it is making an impact on families. We've had parents write in because their kids are struggling with their sexual identity after dealing with anime. We've had parents who have discovered that their children started with anime and ended up delving into fan art, which led them to pornography. We had a parent who wrote in whose child was so obsessed with anime that they started watching on their school Chromebook during the school day and even hiding it under the covers at night. We had another parent whose youngest child came and started telling her about manga, which is the comic version, the book version that had been hidden by the older child that had some really scary images in it of a sexual nature, and he was kind of scarred. So yeah, we have lots of scary stories coming in from parents, and so we want to deal with all of this. We want to help you feel like you have a little bit more control and that you understand what's happening, and so you can kind of cope with all of these issues.
Okay, so the three main topics that we're going to discuss is what is anime? We're going to dive into that universe just a little bit to find out are there any oh, and that's our second point. Is anime safe for kids? Are there safe genres of anime within that universe? And how do we protect our kids in the anime realm?
At the risk of dumbing it down too much here, we're going to start at the beginning. What is anime? Anime is short for animation. It's Japanese animation, to be specific. Fans will tell you anime is not a genre, anime is a medium. So, our media, we have TV, movies, books. Anime is a medium, it's big, huge like that. And then there are genres within that medium like sci-fi and drama and comedy and romance, and then there are subgenres inside that like vampire and uh, mechanical bosses, and also it's so
Goes on
humongous.
and on and on. And
It's
kids love to draw anime. It's a style that is conducive to drawing for young children, and then it can get very detailed and quite beautiful and layered. And so people draw it at all ages and at all abilities. But so it's an art form. You could say that anime is an art form as well.
Right. It's something, a form of entertainment, but and your husband is a professor of art too, and he still sees it at his level, right?
Well, yeah, he usually when kids come in with their portfolio, then he it's just filled with
It's
anime.
heavily influenced,
So as
right?
a professor, his job is to get them to stretch and to try different ways of expressing their art that isn't exclusively anime, but that's what they come into the college with is their portfolio filled with anime.
Right, because that's the popular form.
Mhm.
I we were in the public library the other day, and they have anime drawing lessons. So this is not like an offshoot, like a dark, culture that our children are delving into. This is mainstream public library, um, the happening, like cool, like everybody's doing it, like not in a bad way, but like
Mhm.
that's art. That's what kids are doing to express themselves. So we've
And it's
got this,
entertainment, right?
yeah, and so we've got the form of entertainment, series, movies, the comics, manga that I mentioned before, and then we have this subculture, which is the anime fans that are just totally obsessed. They have cosplay, which is where they dress up in um, their costumes of their favorite characters. They have this alternate reality that they prefer to live in. They have conventions, they have clubs, they have their own language, which actually derives from the Japanese terms that go with it. So if you've been around a big anime fan, they will fling around these Japanese terms like nobody's business, and they know what they're talking
Just
about.
keep
And
up, keep up, keep up.
as a parent, you're like, what are you talking about? And you need to ask. If you are a parent and you hear these anime terms, ask them. Make them feel really smart and say, what does that mean again? And have them define it. And they're like, Mom, it means, I'm a weeb. Mom, I'm a weeb, which weeaboo. That means that's somebody who wishes they were Japanese and are obsessed with all forms of Japanese culture. Or I'm otaku. I'm obsessed with anime, and that's the cool thing to be,
Okay.
right?
Now, I asked you to kind of compare it to something that that we can recognize as big as in Western culture, because anime has been part of Japanese culture for a lot longer than it has been introduced into North America
Right.
and beyond. But I asked, well, Marvel is really big. Like there's a Marvel universe, and we can have cosplay in Marvel. We can have video games that are Marvel. We have comic books. We have Saturday morning cartoons. We have movies. We have all of these things. Is it anything like that?
I would say it's getting there. Like it's a fair comparison because there's so many aspects of it. But the thing with the Marvel universe or the DC universe, yes, it's for children and adults. So we're getting there, but they're limited to this cast of characters, right? You
That have
have,
specific roles that they are
right? There are
assigned.
just these handful of characters, these heroes that you know.
Heroes and villains and
Right. And they are the DC or the Marvel heroes and villains. So take that cast and multiply it by 500, like 1,000 different casts in different anime worlds, and then you have the anime media. So
okay.
it's so huge. Like we can't wrap our mind around how humongous this is. So if we're trying to oversimplify and say, oh, my kid is into anime, and we think it's just these cartoons that all look alike, they're not all alike. Anime is not anime, right? We can't judge by one. Like you can say, when I watch Marvel, I know what to expect.
Uh-huh.
But when you watch anime, you don't know what to expect because there's so many subtleties that are different in these different genres.
Okay, that's very good information to start with. And I know we're just scratching the surface. Is there anything else you want to cover before we break? Because we're going to get into a little bit more of those different genres and what to be mindful of.
I think we're ready. I think we're ready to move on. Take a little breath here. I'm a little psyched up because anime is a thing at our house. So we are going to take a little break, and when we come back, we'll start talking about, is anime safe for kids? We'll be right back.
When parents share with me their concern over a child struggling with pornography, I always recommend they check out Fortify. Fortify is an amazing recovery tool that can help your teen learn to develop their own plan towards success. It's easy to sign up, it's designed to engage, and it's free for teens. Best of all, Fortify is science-based and has a proven track record of helping thousands of individuals find happiness by regaining their freedom from pornography. Visit joinfortify.com/media savvy moms to learn more.
All right, and we are back. We are talking about anime. We're trying to give parents a little clue in on what all of this means. And we, in the first segment, we talked about what is anime a little bit about. And in the second segment, we're going to start talking about, is this safe for our kids and how do we protect them in this realm?
Don't forget that we have a conversation guide for parents that's going to help us bring this conversation up. But let's talk about, is it safe? This is like asking, are video games safe for kids? Are movies safe for kids? It's just that big. Like, would you ever say to your child, you can't watch movies because some movies are not safe?
Right. This is the analogy, you guys, because I think as parents, we panic, right? Because these parents who are writing in these terrible, horrible things that have happened to their family, and our reaction, our knee jerk is to be like, okay, that's it. No anime. Like, not happening. No anime in my house. And we think it's that easy to just cut it out. Or that if these horrible things have happened to our family, then anime is just innately evil. And if we cut it out, it will solve all the problems. But the fact of the matter is, there's a spectrum. In all of these genres, there are some that are made for kids. There are some genres of anime that are clean, that are G-rated, that are totally fine for kids. However, even though the animation and the art form looks exactly the same, you may be getting into content that is for adults. And it's so easy to go down this slippery slope if you don't know what your kids are watching to get into this more dangerous stuff. So we need to be aware as parents, what are these different genres, and to know that just because some anime is not safe doesn't mean all of it is not safe,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I think where parents are fearful is that, as I said at the beginning, this is not something that we grew up with. And so automatically it's scary because we've heard these stories and we don't know where to start. For example, probably the most well-known G-rated anime is Pokemon,
Uh-huh.
because you've got the video games, you've got the television shows, you've got even movies
Cards.
now. Cards, yes, and you can play and participate on so many levels, including how many Ash Ketchums and how many Pikachus did you see for Halloween that one year? Like there's
And
so
now
many.
we have Pokemon Go, which is an app too, right?
Mhm. It is the most successful AI game that has been ever created. I hope I said that as an accurate quote, but I'm not quoting anything, people. That's just what I believe. So I came across this. We have a link down at the bottom, and Melody really researched this. But I was going through some of the comments on a forum, and I loved this one comment. What are some of the cautions to point out to parents? And so this is someone who grew up with anime, loved anime, and now as an adult, she's looking back and she's looking at the anime list that she created when she was in middle school, so between the ages of 11 and 13. And she realized that so many of the anime that her dad had rented for her from Netflix was not stuff that really she would not rent for her own children if she were to do that today. So he based his ratings or what he ordered from Netflix. Now this I believe is back when Netflix was a video subscription service,
Hmm.
not the streaming service that we have today. So he would bring home titles based on their star ratings. So if it got 4.5 stars, he'd think, oh, that's a great title for my daughter. Well, these were often what are called harem or ecchi
Hmm.
genres of anime. And now, looking back, she's completely offended by the way that they exploited and sexualized women. And she even feels like she struggled for years to overcome uh, some of the storylines that kind of shaped and warped her views of what sexuality should have been.
Right. So, and that's what we're talking about, where the animation looks the same. So it's anime, so it must be the same, right? But this spectrum where we have what's called chibi, which is Pokemon, and that's G-rated stuff
Okay.
where you know what to expect because when you watch Pokemon, you know what to expect. And you get into these others that look the same, they're drawn the same, but harem is a form where there's one guy and there are a ton of girls after him. Is going to be a little more sexual, and ecchi is uh perverted, basically like soft porn, where they have things like panty shots and just sexualized content. And there's a lot of, just in
Mixed
general,
in with like adventure and comic relief or other
right,
type things. So you kind of think you're watching one storyline, but they're subtly, not so subtly pushing the sexualized storyline along with it.
right. So,
And then I just want to, because we have not defined hentai, and you mentioned it again. So
yes, I
what's
did.
the difference between ecchi and hentai?
Right. Hentai is hardcore pornography in animated form. That it has no storyline, it has no educational or an entertainment value except to stimulate sexually. It anything that you can find in the hardcore porn realm, you can find in hentai. Now, try to process that for a minute. There if you're going, we've done a parent's guide to Pornhub where we outlined all of the horrible things that you can find in porn now that we may not have processed. Now, you can find that in animated form in hentai. And the thing is, with animated porn, now you can take people and draw them in like on steroids. You can draw bodies that are outrageously enormous and do draw things that would be illegal if they were being done by real people.
Take
So,
the sexual violence that appears in live action porn and put that when your imagination, there's no limit to the scope of your imagination. That could also occur in hentai, correct?
right. So, this is the spectrum we're talking about. We're going from chibi, which is G rated,
Let's
to
go back to
hentai,
chibi, please. Can we go
right?
back to chibi?
To hentai, which is triple X, right? Can be. So we need to, as parents, understand that there's a whole lot in between there, right? And I found a really great parents guide, or it's a genre guide that we are going to link to where you can read all about all these different guides, because we could spend an entire show or multiple shows just going over all of these different types of anime. So we're going to send you to realrundown.com a complete list of anime genres with explanations, and you can just get a feeling of these pages and pages and pages of different genres and subgenres in the anime realm, and which ones are going to be okay for your kids to watch, which ones are not, which ones contain content that you're comfortable with, and which are not.
Great.
So,
That'll be
yeah.
very useful. Talk about filters for just a moment. Is there a way to filter anime content that you know of?
Nope. And I hate to be the bringer of bad news, but Sorry, parents, there's no internet filter that you can put to protect your kids from anime because there's no way to filter out animation from your internet. Because think of everything that's animated. You can't filter out cartoons. You can't filter out advertisements. You can't everything that's animated. Yeah, it's not you can't toggle on like you can with pornography or gambling or bad words or all those other things that are awesome on parental controls. You can't click anime.
Okay.
So
So let's lead into our third point. How on earth, if we cannot filter this, how on earth do we protect our kids in the anime realm?
right. It's our job, right? We can't leave it to technology, so we got to do it. And this is where we're getting to with this whole show is that yeah, we said at the beginning we don't want to be alarmist, we don't want to scare everybody, but we want to be real. And at the same time, we can't make anime the enemy, and we can't cut it out completely.
And why
So what
is
do
that? Why can't we make it the anime? Why can't we just say, nope, sorry kids, no anime, not in our house, not under my roof? Why is that not going to work?
because remember, this is part of popular culture now. And to be honest, even if we could set an internet filter, it's everywhere. It's saturating everything.
Mhm.
It's our kids. You were talking to me about in the car the other day, right?
Well, this was a while ago, but yeah, I remember driving to Battle of the Books with my kids, and the conversation with all the schoolmates in the car was like, "What anime show are you watching? What? Oh my gosh, have you seen this anime? Blah 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 blah." Like that's all they talked about.
So it's everywhere. And if we say no, not happening, I hate to say it, but our kids are going to find a way to be part of the culture, to participate.
Mhm.
So we need to we have 4 steps, 4 things we need to do. 1, educate ourselves. 2, educate our kids. 3, set boundaries together. And 4, have open, honest conversations. And we are not leaving you high and dry. We have an anime conversation guide for parents to help you take a tool, have this plan, and open conversations with your kids to help you do this.
All right, so just we'll just briefly go over each of those. Like where educate ourselves. Like where can our kids find animes? We said that it's just everywhere. So what do you mean by that?
So, well, first of all, educating ourselves, this podcast is a great place to start. Educating ourselves about what anime is, where to find it, so we know what they're getting into, where kids can access it. We talked about the public library. They can actually check out manga, which are the comics at the public library in the comic section right next to Garfield and Marvel and Superman. And if we don't know what we're looking at, they can get anything from these G rated comics to R rated comics
Yeah,
right next to each other. And so I think we should do another show just on manga, where we
definitely.
talk about because they look the same on the covers. And then when you open them, I mean, I've seen it because all you have to do is go to the public library and open it. And there are girls in lingerie and boobs and all sorts of horrible, scary stuff right there next to Garfield.
That's part of educating our kids too. Like give them fair warning. I always say give your kids fair warning and a fighting chance to make conscientious decisions about the media that they're ingesting. If the cover looks great, like oh my gosh, like how many books did I bring home just because the cover looked great? I wasn't a stellar reader. I wasn't going for content. I was going for what looked great on the cover. Bring it home and you never know what you're going to get.
Right. So at least with manga, we have that rating system that we can talk about when we do our manga show, if we can get around to
Okay.
doing that. But also Netflix. Netflix is streaming a lot of anime now. They can get it there. YouTube, there is so much anime on YouTube that they can access. And as we mentioned with that mom who wrote into us, they can access it on their Chromebooks
Mm,
during school when they're not under our care. They can even get into this stuff if we haven't taught them and educated them correctly, right?
yep.
And then you mentioned friends talk, and they're going to show each other. So we need to be aware of the places that they can access it, and educate ourselves on what it is, and talk to our kids about it too.
So I'm going to group number 2 and 3 because I kind of jumped ahead already. Educating our kids is helping them choose shows or comics or movies that fit their family values, fit the the safer screen habits that we have established in the home, but
Right.
also working together to do that. And Chris talked to us just recently about making technology a we us experience. We would extend that to the media that we consume, make the media a we us experience. So when your kids are young, you need to be watching these shows with your kids to get a flavor of what it is that they are experiencing. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. We need to help them process through. And when Lacey was on here and she was talking about even watching the chibi cartoons like Pokemon, that still there are these themes that are just laced into all anime, like, when on Pokemon, when a girl comes across the screen, like the whoa, like the
Yeah.
eyes bulge and they're
Brock's
like,
eyes
whoa,
fall out of his head,
and he,
basically.
drool comes out of their
Mhm.
mouth. And to just stop and be like, so what do you think about that? Do you think that we should treat girls like that? They're just themes that are going to come up because that's the anime culture,
Yeah.
right? And having that we us um, approach to all media, video games, movies, TV, to have that time to process and talk through and problem solve with our kids is really important with anime.
Now, when we sit down for a family movie night at our house, and our kids are, my youngest is now approaching teen, so we're starting to look at movies that aren't as juvenile as we were. And so I always go to Common Sense Media to check out the movie ratings, to get parent other parents feedback, other kids feedback, and then we make a decision together whether we think that this is a movie that we want to watch as a family. And guess what? There might not be filters for anime, but Melody has found some great resources to go to find, what's the word I'm looking for? To find reviews
Sure.
of anime.
Right. And ratings on Common Sense Media too. And we love Common Sense Media because they have parent reviews and then they have kid reviews too. So you can read reviews and star ratings on Common Sense Media, and they have specific categories for anime movies and anime series, so that you can go
Fantastic.
and look up and see if they have some, and we'll put the links for you for Common Sense Media anime. There also, we found a Christian anime website where they have lists of series that they approve of as for Christian families. If you're into anime that are going to be safe, if you share that value system.
Or even if you're not Christian and that's not, just know that it's more age appropriate. And oh my gosh, like I was looking, that some of that manga is gorgeous.
Right.
The artwork in this, you can see why it is so attractive. So I think that's a fantastic site for anyone who wants to have value-based decisions.
Right. And then the other one that we found was the Anime Feminist website, which they've taken the approach of, there is objectification of girls, and there are the genres of harem and reverse harem and all of these, which you're going to go and read about what all of these are. We'll give you a place, that they've filtered out and put the ones that they feel are more appropriate on. They're creating a list
I love
too.
that. And you could talk about that with your kids, why you're choosing these and why it's not appropriate to have overt sexualization and exploitation of women in our cartoons.
Right. And that fits right into the last step about having open, honest conversations. So we've talked about anime is here to stay, and don't make it the enemy. Instead, get involved, get interested, get curious, and come along for the ride with your kids. Be by their side. Help them to make it fun and make it a family experience. And it's funny because maybe you are not into it, but personally, I have tried to, as a mom, get interested in the things that my kids are interested in so that I can be aware and help them feel important and make it a together we experience, even if you're sitting there playing Pokemon cards and you're like beating your head against the wall inside. Your kid feels like, oh, my mom loves me and I'm having fun. Right? Been there,
Oh,
done
yeah.
that. Right? So, we've mentioned, of course, the objectification of women, but there are some really unsettling things in anime that come up for families that don't agree with their value system, like homosexual anime themes of younger kids being in love with older. Like, there was the series that came out this year that was super popular where an ice skater fell in love with his ice skating coach.
Hmm.
And so, there are these themes that are like, oh, well, not so cool, that we need to be able to approach. So where we start out with, just like any form of media, you guys, anytime we're talking about media, we start out with, what are our family values? And when we come across media, whether it's TV, movies, video games, internet, or anime, if we come across stuff that doesn't match our family values, what are we going to do about it? We teach our kids what's right and wrong, what's healthy, not healthy, what's real, what isn't real, and what's appropriate and what isn't appropriate. And it's no different with anime, you guys. It's the same. It's the same approach that we take for video games and pornography and internet. We just got to get talking.
Okay. So just to recap, we have discussed today what anime is it safe for kids, and how to protect our kids in the anime realm. And to do that, we've got 4 points: educate yourself, educate your kids, set boundaries together, and always, as always, have open, honest conversations. So what is our challenge today?
Okay, we've hinted at it, but for your challenge, if you have a kid who's into anime and you just aren't sure how to start the conversation, download our anime conversation guide for parents. We have 10 conversation starters for you, non threatening ways to start the conversation. We told you to get interested, get curious, and we're going to give you some cue cards on how to start that conversation with your kids.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Media Savvy Moms podcast. For detailed show notes and links to any of the resources mentioned today, visit parentsaware.info. To connect with us on social media, find us on Instagram at Media Savvy Moms and on Facebook and Twitter at Parents Aware. We would love to get your feedback. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen to this podcast. Until next week, let's keep talking.